Hello, my dear friend. Hazel here, inviting you to share a moment of quiet reflection with me today. Perhaps you, like me, are finding yourself at a particular crossroads in life. The children have ventured out, the career chapters are largely written, and suddenly the landscape ahead seems both wide open and a little unfamiliar. It's a time for looking forward, yes, for charting new adventures, but it's also a powerful time for looking back, not with judgment, but with a gentle curiosity. I've always been one for careful planning, for doing my research, whether it was for a cross-country train journey or mapping out a financial future. I learned early that a well-packed bag makes for a much smoother trip. But what I've learned even more profoundly in these later years is that it's not just about what you choose to pack, but what you choose to leave behind. What baggage, seen and unseen, are we still carrying that we no longer need? Today, I want to talk about the things that, looking back, I regret not letting go of sooner. These aren't grand, dramatic regrets, but rather subtle weights that accumulated over time, quietly stealing joy and peace. My hope is that by sharing my own journey of release, you might find some quiet guidance for your own path as you navigate this beautiful and complex season of life. We'll explore 6 specific burdens that, in hindsight, I wish I'd unburdened myself from much, much earlier. And perhaps, just perhaps, you'll recognize a few of them in your own quiet reflections. Let's begin. The first thing I truly wish I had let go of sooner was the constant need for external validation. Oh, how insidious this one can be. It masquerades as ambition, as seeking feedback, as wanting to do well. But underneath it for me was a deep-seated craving for approval, for someone else to stamp their seal of good enough on my choices, my efforts, even my very being. As a young woman entering the workforce, especially in fields like finance and later as a librarian, there was a palpable pressure to prove myself, to demonstrate competence, not just for my own satisfaction, but for the nods of others. Even when I started exploring my passion for travel and independent living, there were often subtle, unspoken expectations from society, from friends about what a woman should be doing. Should I have settled down earlier? Should I have pursued a more conventional path? I remember a particular period when I was meticulously planning a sabbatical, a rather daring solo trip through Europe. I had all my financial ducks in a row, the budgets, the itineraries, the contingency plans. Yet I found myself repeatedly running the idea past my trusted friend, waiting for her enthusiastic endorsement, for her to say, "Yes, Hazel, this is a brilliant idea, exactly what you should do." And when her response was simply, "That sounds nice," a little part of me felt deflated. It wasn't until I was actually on that train, watching the German countryside blur past, that I had a quiet revelation. The joy of the journey wasn't dependent on her approval or anyone else's. It was mine, entirely mine. My friend Silas, with his accountant's precision, often talks about the true ledger of a life, the things that truly count beyond the dollars and cents. He's right, of course. And on that ledger, the value of my own inner conviction, my own sense of purpose, far outweighed any external praise. Letting go of this need meant finding a deeper, more resilient source of self-worth. It meant trusting my own compass, even when it pointed in a direction others didn't quite understand. It freed up so much mental energy that I could then pour into truly living, truly experiencing, rather than constantly seeking affirmation. It might be worth asking yourself, where do you still look for permission that you already have within you? The second burden I carried for far too long was the relentless pursuit of perfection. This one often went hand in hand with external validation. If I was seeking approval, then everything I did had to be just right, impeccable, beyond reproach. As a financial planner, precision was paramount, of course. You can't be almost right with someone's retirement savings. As a librarian, organizing knowledge demanded meticulous attention to detail. These were skills that served me well in my profession. But outside of work, this perfectionism bled into every corner of my life. My apartment had to be spotless, my travel plans flawlessly executed, my advice always perfectly distilled. The truth is, life is messy, people are messy, and striving for an impossible ideal only leads to frustration and a deep sense of inadequacy. I remember attempting to host a perfect holiday dinner for my family one year. I had planned every dish, every decoration, every moment down to the minute. Of course, things went awry. The roast was slightly overcooked, the conversation took an unexpected turn, and I spilled gravy on the pristine tablecloth. Instead of enjoying the warmth of my family's presence, I was internally critiquing every minor imperfection. It was utterly exhausting. I think of Clara, our wonderful artist friend. She used to be, by her own admission, a superwoman, always needing everything to be perfect. Now she paints watercolors, a medium that, by its very nature, embraces fluidity and imperfection. She often tells humorous stories about her muddy paintings or the unexpected ways the colors blend. She's found a profound joy in simply trusting the process and letting go of rigid control and allowing beauty to emerge, even from what she might have once called a mistake. Clara reminds me that sometimes the most beautiful things in life emerge when you stop trying to control every stroke, when you allow for the unexpected, the slightly imperfect, the truly human. Releasing the grip of perfectionism wasn't about lowering my standards, but about shifting my focus from faultless execution to joyful participation. It was about recognizing that a life well lived is not a flawless masterpiece, but a vibrant, textured tapestry woven with threads of success and struggle, laughter and tears, all of it contributing to its unique beauty. It's a grace, really, to be able to simply be rather than constantly do and be judged. If something in this is resonating with you, I'd be so grateful to know you might just type "I'm listening" in the comments below so we know we're in this together. It helps to know we are not alone on this path. The third thing I regret not letting go of sooner was the fear of missing out, or FOMO, and its close cousin, constant comparison. This became particularly acute as I navigated my 30s and 40s. While many of my friends were settling down, buying houses, and having children, I was often on the road, exploring new countries, building my financial independence. There were moments, I confess, when I would scroll through social media, seeing pictures of elaborate family gatherings or meticulously curated homes, and a quiet whisper of doubt would creep in. Was I missing something essential? Was I making the right choices? Was my independent path, as fulfilling as it was, somehow less complete? This fear isn't just about grand life decisions. It's also about the smaller daily anxieties. The worry that if you don't attend every social event, you'll be forgotten. The feeling that everyone else is living a more exciting, a more meaningful, or simply better life than you are. It's a relentless mental game that steals your presence from your own precious moments. I remember trying to pack too much into a single travel itinerary, convinced that if I missed one landmark or one experience, my trip would be incomplete. I'd rush from one place to the next, checklist in hand, only to arrive home utterly exhausted, realizing I hadn't truly savored any of it. What I've come to understand is that comparison is the thief of joy, a timeless truth that applies more profoundly the older I get. My life, with its unique choices and adventures, was never meant to be a carbon copy of anyone else's. And your life, my dear friend, with its own beautiful rhythms and seasons, is uniquely yours. It's a gift, not a competition. Letting go of this fear meant learning to cultivate a deep sense of contentment with my own path, my own pace, and my own quiet joys. It meant trusting that the experiences meant for me would find me, and those that passed me by were simply not part of my story. It's a freedom that truly allows you to breathe, to be present, and to deeply appreciate the richness of your own life rather than constantly scanning the horizon for what others possess. The fourth burden, and perhaps one of the most stubborn, was the illusion of control over everything and everyone. As a financial planner, I thrived on creating order, predicting possibilities, and mitigating risks. It's a valuable skill, certainly, but there's a crucial difference between diligent planning and the futile attempt to control the unpredictable currents of life itself. I often found myself frustrated when plans went awry, when people didn't behave as I expected, or when circumstances simply defied my best laid strategies. My natural inclination was to double down, to try harder, to exert more influence. I recall a particularly challenging time when a complex family situation arose. I meticulously researched options, drafted detailed suggestions, and presented them with the kind of logical precision I'd apply to a client's portfolio. I was convinced my approach was the right one, the most rational and efficient path forward. Yet the situation continued to be turbulent precisely because human emotions and individual wills are far more complex than any spreadsheet can capture. I spent months feeling a deep sense of frustration and even failure, thinking that if only I had articulated things better or plans more comprehensively, I could have steered everyone to a smoother outcome. It was during that time that I had a conversation with Arthur, our gentle and wise elder. He spoke of his late wife, Eleanor, and how her quiet strength had taught him that some things are beyond our human grasp. He often holds her delicate teacup with its blue forget-me-nots, and I can almost hear him saying that true peace isn't found in gripping tighter, but in learning to tend the garden of what you can influence and letting go with grace what you cannot. His Christian faith imbues him with a deep understanding of yielding to a greater plan. That conversation was a turning point for me. It wasn't about abandoning responsibility or planning, but about discerning what truly lies within my sphere of influence and what doesn't. It's about recognizing the wisdom and knowing when to act and when to simply trust, when to lead and when to simply allow. Letting go of the illusion of control meant finding a profound sense of inner peace, a peace that wasn't dependent on perfect outcomes, but on accepting the unfolding of life with a calmer heart. It's a testament to the fact that sometimes the greatest strength lies in quiet surrender. The fifth thing I wish I had released sooner was the weight of past regrets and the endless what ifs. Oh, these are sly saboteurs, aren't they? They whisper in the quiet hours, revisiting old decisions, replaying conversations, and painting vivid pictures of alternate realities. What if I had taken that other job opportunity? What if I had handled that relationship differently? What if I had invested more aggressively or less so? As someone who meticulously plans for the future, I spent far too much time trying to retroactively plan the past, trying to mentally correct what had already occurred. It's like trying to rewrite a story that has already been published. The truth is, every choice we make, every path we walk, brings us to exactly where we are today. And this today is our starting point for all new possibilities. Dwelling on regrets doesn't change the past. It only robs the present of its vitality and the future of its hope. I remember one summer several years ago, I was feeling particularly adrift, revisiting a series of career decisions from decades prior. I was so caught up in analyzing what I should have done that I was blind to the beauty of the summer days unfolding around me. I missed opportunities for connection, for simple joys, because my mind was stuck in a loop of historical analysis. It was my friend Thomas, Clara's husband, who helped me see this with his usual practical wisdom. He often talks about the cost of small battles, and in a way, endlessly replaying past regrets is a battle you can never win. He might talk about a stubborn weed in his garden, how pulling it up helps the current plant flourish, but endlessly fretting about the soil from last year serves no purpose. He is a grounded realist who understands the power of the present moment. Letting go of past regrets wasn't about condoning mistakes or ignoring lessons learned. It was about extracting the wisdom from those experiences, acknowledging them, and then gently closing that chapter. It's about understanding that our past forms the rich soil from which our present grows, but we don't need to stay buried in it. We can harvest the lessons and move forward, lighter and wiser. It's a conscious act of forgiveness, not just for others, but for ourselves. For the younger versions of us who did the best they could with the information and understanding they had at the time. Finally, the sixth thing I truly regret not letting go of sooner was the constant internal pressure to do more or be productive at every single moment. This is a deep-seated one, especially for those of us who have spent decades in careers that demanded constant output and visible achievement. There's a societal narrative that ties our worth to our productivity, that equates stillness with laziness and quiet contemplation with idleness. For much of my adult life, I believed this narrative implicitly. If I wasn't working or planning or traveling or learning something new, I felt a subtle sense of guilt, a whisker that I wasn't making the most of my time. This meant that even my leisure often felt like another item on a to-do list. Reading a book became about finishing it rather than savoring it. A quiet afternoon became an opportunity to catch up on chores. I rarely allowed myself the simple luxury of simply being, without an agenda, without a goal. It robbed me of genuine rest, of true contemplation, and of the profound wellspring of creativity that often emerges from quiet stillness. I think of Grace, our dear friend and a pastor's widow, whose wisdom is always rooted in connection and community. She speaks of the importance of simply showing up for life, for others, and for yourself, often without the need for grand gestures or constant activity. She understands that sometimes the deepest connections, the most profound insights, emerge not from doing, but from simply being present, from listening, from sharing a quiet space. She helps me remember that true strength lies not in constantly striving, but in recognizing the grace in moments of stillness and connection. Letting go of this relentless pressure wasn't about becoming idle or losing my drive. It was about finding a new rhythm, one that honored rest as much as activity, reflection as much as action. It was about recognizing that my worth isn't tied to my output, but to my inherent value as a human being, a child of God. It meant cultivating a practice of Sabbath, even in secular terms, a conscious decision to step away from the demands of the world and simply exist, to replenish my spirit. This release has brought a profound sense of freedom and a deeper appreciation for the simple, unadorned moments of life. It's a liberation from the tyranny of the clock and the endless to-do list, allowing for a life that is truly lived, not just managed. Thank you for spending a few minutes with me today, for sharing this quiet space. The journey of finding happiness, as we've talked about, truly begins with looking inward and gently releasing the burdens that no longer serve us. If you're ready to take that first gentle step on your own path of reflection, I've created something just for you. It's a free guide called The First 5 Questions, a gentle guide to rediscovering your story. It's designed to help you begin this exact process in a quiet and meaningful way, to help you identify what you might be ready to let go of to make room for new purpose. You can download it right now for free from the link in the description or at eldersechoes.com. Have a good day today.